My earliest memory is from the rodeo with my father. I was born in Colorado, and my dad was a champion and later a judge in the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association. As I grew older, however, I became aware of just how homophobic the mainstream rodeo can be. Rural America, as an ideal, is by and large a patriarchal, Christian, and white domain, still hostile to anything that is not that. In 2016, I discovered that there is an entire subculture within the rodeo circuit known as the International Gay Rodeo Association. One of the great powers of the queer rodeo is its ability to disrupt America's tribal dichotomies that cannot contain who we really are. Liberal versus conservative, urban versus rural, coastal elite versus middle America.
That was photographer and filmmaker Luke Gilford reading from his first photographic monograph, National Anthem, America's Queer Rodeo. You might know him for his photographs of Paris Hilton and Lizzo, or his films featuring Pamela Anderson and Jane Fonda. Hello, Luke.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining us. Now, just ahead of the American elections, it's an interesting time to be bringing out a book entitled National Anthem. You started this project around the time Donald Trump was elected. Describe it to us.
It felt very urgent, actually, in 2016 to be doing something that was sort of a meditation on the myth of America. It really was becoming increasingly clear just how polarized our country was becoming and maybe had been for quite some time. So I was really interested in, these tribal dichotomies, as I mentioned, urban versus rural, and the coastal elite versus middle America. And it was such a revelation to find the queer rodeo community because they really embrace both ends of the American cultural spectrum. And it's a very inclusive and intersectional community, and it's so rare to find that in America. So it really felt urgent and important for not only myself, but for others to see this as evidence of something maybe that we should be working towards.
And you grew up as the son of a pro bull rider. You spent your formative years around the rodeo. It is an American institution, and yet it's known for its conservatism and homophobia. Tell us how you discovered this other side of rodeo, queer rodeo.
It was at a Pride event in Northern California. There was I saw this group of real cowboys and cowgirls, and they were sort of just telling people about the Queer Rodeo Association, and it really was a revelation to me. I had never fully connected to urban queer culture, and so it was really exciting to me to see this sort of chosen family that they really had no desire to be living in an urban environment. They have their ranch and their animals and their family and their chosen family. And so by the next weekend, I was in New Mexico at my very first queer rodeo. And then, here we are over 4 years later now with this body of work.
Without my rodeo family, I would not be where I am today. Without their help, their love, their support, I would not have a space to be who I am. As my chosen family, they will always be by my side.
And the International Gay Rodeo Association was founded in 1985. It has 16 member associations across the US and Canada. Here in Europe, we don't really have rodeo. Describe what gay rodeo is. What happens there and why is it important?
It takes place in the arenas that the mainstream rodeos take place in, all throughout the Southwest, Texas, Utah, Arizona, Nevada. So it's a really interesting subversion of power, even if just for a weekend, to be borrowing queer space and time to have the queer rodeo. So that is really interesting as well, because these are spaces that weren't necessarily safe for us before. but now we're making it our own. So, there's bull riding, there's shoot dogging, there's horse barrel racing, speed events. But then what makes the queer rodeo a little bit different is not only are the contestants primarily queer, but there's also, we queer some of the events. So there's drag queens performing, and there's also some events that are slightly different, like some more camp events, like putting panties on a goat, for example, is not a traditional rodeo event, but it's something that we do in the queer rodeo.
Talk to us about one of your favorite photographs in the book.
There's one that I come back to a lot of Priscilla, who was last year's Miss IGRA in Colorado. She has this piercing gaze and she's so dignified and proud. And I think because I know her backstory, she came out really late in life. She had a rodeo scholarship in college, and studied agriculture, and has a ranch in New Mexico where she now lives with her partner, and she's a parent. She fathered two adult children and now is a grandparent. Priscilla really, to me, is just such a beautiful example of what this community represents.
And since the beginning of the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender liberation movements in the 1960s, and photography has played an essential role in giving communities visibility, there seems to be more visibility now than ever, but it coincides with a time marked by heightened violence against queer and trans people. How do you think LGBTQ plus rights have evolved in the past few years during the Trump era, for example?
Well, it seems like we're actually moving backwards in the Trump era. Especially trans lives are, constantly under threat. So I think that, to me, this project is a reminder that we still have a ways to go, that queer people are everywhere. There's also several pictures. You asked about favorite images. There's several images in the book that show injuries. The reason I used those images was to have a sort of subtle, or maybe not so subtle, reminder of the care and love that the queer community needs from the world at large, but also the care and love and the body as a witness to that care and love that the queer rodeo community gives one another. So I think, visibility is one thing, but, action is another.
And Luke, your work has always explored the world that we live in. You're best known for music videos and fashion spreads featuring stars like Lizzo, David Lynch, Christina Aguilera, as well as Jane Fonda and Pamela Anderson. Your career really took off, and with your short fashion film Prada, The Future of Flesh. Among other people you've worked with is body positive role model Lizzo, and you photographed her famous album cover for 'Cause I Love You. Why do you think Lizzo is an important artist in today's world?
She loves herself, which is a radical act in this world that tells us all, not just big Black women, especially big Black women, but pretty much everyone, that you're not good enough, that you need to change this or be better at this, or and her love for herself and her acceptance of herself is radical, and is an important starting point for a lot of change. Shooting her album cover with her nude was such a beautiful experience, because it was, that was a statement. And I think that she really changed the world in a lot of ways.
And your short film Connected shows Pamela Anderson as a woman dealing with aging and adapting to today's technological world. It was made before COVID. Do you think the problem of loneliness is getting worse in this era of COVID?
Absolutely, yeah. I think that with Connected, I was really trying to explore this desire for something greater. And I think it's really a spiritual journey, especially for when, people have been valued for their appearance for most of their lives. As we age, it's like, well, then what are we valued for?
In the new world, you will be reinvented. Your identity evaporated. You will bless the past and let it go. All of us alive now will live forever.
It's one reason why I love photography so much. I think kind of the merit of a really great portrait is based on respect and intimacy, and connection. So I think these are really important parts of our culture that are, in some ways we're slipping from. And so I try to find any way to hold on to those values.
And we're living in very complicated times. What effect is COVID and the political climate in the US at the moment having on your work and what you're doing at the moment?
Well, I've written a script based on the National Anthem project. Over the last couple of years, I've been working on it and developing it. And, right in March is when I finished the last draft, and then everything shut down. And I was hoping and planning and dreaming to be shooting that this year. We'll see what happens. I really hope to be able to make this film next year, but we'll see.
Okay, Luke, it's been a delight to talk to you. Just before we go, I just want to show you. I wore these for you today. I don't know if I can get them. My cowboy boots.
Amazing. Gorgeous.
Straight from Mexico. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. Your book, National Anthem, is out in October. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.
Maybe I'll win today. Maybe I won't. Not trying to be anyone's hero. Just trying to prove to myself that I'm not done yet, that I got more in me. Nobody, I don't care who you are, you're not going to outmuscle a bull. You're going up against 1,000 pounds plus. You're not going to beat that.
On October the 25th, the people of Chile will take part in a historic referendum to change the 1980 constitution adopted during the Pinochet dictatorship. The vote is the culmination of a year of protests to which the government responded with a violent clampdown. 31 people died and thousands were injured, including 468 who lost an eye by police or military fire. It is they who have become the martyrs of the Chilean social movement. Our reporters are in Chile to meet the protesters who have lost an eye and gauge the anger of the young generation.
Reporters, presented by Mark Owen on France 24 and France24.com.